no matter what, even though if you're making side comments, make sure you just always do it in the mic.
Yeah.
I have a lav mic now.
Oh shit!
I just fucking talk.
Myra got a laugh
Fancy.
mic. Did you buy it from Amazon?
No, someone just lent it to me here. I don't buy anything from Amazon.
I
First
bought
of
it
all,
from Amazon. And then I gave it away.
Our first guest is Chrissy.
Hey! Hey!
I refuse to
Hey!
call
Is that
her
how
a
we're?
guest.
Yeah, no.
Just kidding.
No,
She's
no, no,
not
no.
a guest.
JK.
This is actually her house.
She's a series regular
Yes.
oh.
I'm a serious
who also
regular.
has like a movie career, so she's like always out
Yeah.
doing stuff.
She's
She's,
busy bitch.
to various
she's
lands.
an activist class correspondent.
I'm out in the field.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Taking a break from my daily life to sit on the couch in my own home to talk to you activists.
Yeah. Let's just. Yep. It's Christina's home.
It is.
Absolutely.
If you can figure out where those Shamasawants are located in Seattle.
Don't come a knocking, you creeps. Stay away. Don't talk shit about the decor.
This is great decor. This
It
is
looks
the fanciest
great.
couch I've ever sat on.
Thank you.
Trivia question: how many forums/events, political events, has Alex Peterson in District 4 missed?
well, he didn't go to the one
I don't know about in a
today,
row.
and the one
How many in a row?
he didn't go to the Urban Indian, and the one today about homelessness.
So that's 2.
That's 2 minimum.
It's 13 total then, because last week it was 11.
There you go.
Jeez Louise.
I'm telling you right now, the number is up to 17 events.
I thought it was 19.
What?
Is he alive?
Wait, is that fact
Oh
or are
shit!
you?
Someone check on Alex Peterson.
Let's just assume Alex Peterson has gotten to a place that he's just coasting through the election. Why go to a forum where you can look less progressive than your opponent Sean Scott and also less smart?
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
just be real.
Oh, wait,
Sean has
yeah.
been kicking his ass at every forum. So why the fuck would you have to? Why do you have to keep going there when you can just continue this strategy
Yep.
of media, propaganda?
Oh, mediocre whiteness.
Mediocre whiteness. Why do you
Pray
have to
for
try?
Our Lady of Laurelhurst. She'll
Ugh.
show up and save the day.
Right, but the thing is though, I want to shout out Sean Scott's campaign.
Yes.
Because those motherfuckers knocked on 19,000 doors
That
in the
is
primaries.
some serious
In the
fucking
primaries.
shit.
I don't know how much more they've knocked since then,
Yep.
but this is very anti-millennial of me to say. But old school tactics, I'm hoping they pull through because Sean has an amazing ground game. Shama Swan has an amazing ground game. And those other dudes are hoping that their propaganda is going to push them through.
Exactly.
And we just got to hope that the hard work that we've seen these candidates, people power, is going to...
And
No,
human
we-
connection, you know?
Yo.
So Sean can win. He has an amazing ground game. You know what would also help? If he
Sweaters?
got Emily Myers voters.
Yes.
If he
Yes.
got Kathy Tuttle's voters. The ones who were more in agreement, especially in the case of Emily, way more with Sean than Alex Peterson.
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy because usually when we're in this situation, what we see is the second level, like, squirrely coward move of double endorsement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dual endorsement. Fucking hate dual endorsements. But these candidates are so polarizing and so polar opposite that we're just seeing complete silence
I
from
know.
people. I asked Emily Myers to her face at the 43rd Dem debate, which I moderated, which I've been questioned of
Wild.
conflict of interest.
Yeah, well.
I've been asked. I said, Emily, if not you, then who? I asked everybody that. And she said Sean Scott. Kathy's included Sean in her answer.
Oh, yeah.
Did
that
not
sounds like
include
her.
Alex Peterson. Where the fuck are they? Because, you know, if you add those percentages up that they got in the primaries,
It's his race.
it's his race.
And these are candidates that spoke very heartedly about equity. You know, and this
White woman, by the way.
white women
Exactly.
talking about equity. So when you
White
talk
women
about
at it
equity being an
again.
action, this is a very concrete, actionable thing you can do for equity in a race that's polarizing. And if you're nodding your head with everything that Sean has been saying about racial justice, police accountability, housing, you'd understand what's at stake. So, yeah.
You know who else has been absent from this race? Not a white woman, but a very progressive woman of color, our Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who today, Monday, the 21st of October, came out and endorsed Lisa Herbold in District 1, Tammy Morales, District 2, and Larry Gossett, King County, District 2. Races that don't have as much at stake and as much variable. Like, Tammy's going to win.
Races that the PACs have already pulled out of.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, calling out Amazon, saying fuck you for influencing the races, and then just safely endorsing candidates that Amazon doesn't even give a fuck about anymore.
That didn't actively put in money from that 1 million.
And silence. Why? That shit fucking drives me crazy.
Because their connections are worth more than that. They want to keep their connections.
We can't let them get away with this.
Who? Pramila needs to show the fuck up and endorse Sean Scott and Shama Sawant. Sean is a former staffer of Pramila. It's not public on what happened. Obviously, there's bad blood, and what on paper looks like is that during the time that Sean was on staff, the staff unionized. For whatever reason, some of those staff did not remain on her staff.
Oh, sure.
What happened? I don't know. And I'm not at liberty to say because I really don't know what happened because I wasn't there. But what it looks like is that there's some petty shit going on because Sean is a clear candidate. You can hide less behind, he's a socialist narrative because he's DSA, which is also heavily affiliated with Ocasio-Cortez and other very high-profile, legitimate national candidates. So where are you on that? Where are you on Shama Sawant? And it's just very petty. And I hope everybody who has petty gripe over some candidates will realize we have a lot more at stake than this.
And she endorsed Emily, right? So she's willing to
come in this race.
Jump. Yeah, totally.
But Tammy got it. Well, congrats. She'll win now by 90%. Lisa got it. Larry got it. And I think if we lose this race, it'll be for a lot of reasons. But included in those reasons is their silence. And that needs to be really made clear. If you're staying out of this race and the results end up being corporate-backed candidates getting into office, your silence kind of fucked a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the deciding factor, but it matters. Pramila endorsed Lisa Herbold, endorsed Tammy Morales, and endorsed Larry Gossett. District 1, District 2 City Council, and District 2 in King County. Left out District 3, Socialist, Shama Sawant, and District 4, Democratic Socialists of America, DSA's Sean Scott.
Both victims of the Amazon bomb.
The Amazon bomb.
Indeed.
Dun 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 dun.
The $1 million bomb that Amazon dropped last week. What the fuck?
Bro.
Can you... What?
She contradicted herself.
Exactly.
She didn't have the backbone.
And for those listening who needs a little refresher, what is the $1 million bomb Amazon dropped?
Amazon made a $1 million contribution to the Chamber PAC.
The Civic Alliance for a Sound Economy case.
How much have they donated so far?
1.4 million.
1.45.
Who has donated the most out of any corporation?
Amazon.
That's correct. That is correct.
Ever. Of all
Ever.
time.
Indeed.
Like to pour in $1 million to a municipal level election is a statement and a fucking flex.
3 weeks before.
Exactly. Like that shit was timed very, very intentionally. Election day's the 5th. So yeah, that is fucking wild.
So are we assuming that... So this was the plan all along for Amazon to drop this type of money in this election?
I believe so.
I feel like it was a reaction to the candidates that made it through the primaries, and it was likely planned. But like, okay, so Amazon drops $1 million 2 weeks before the general. You know, like they would have had to have thought out and cultivated that gift way before for the campaign to be able to spend $1 million. They're not spending down $1 million in 2 weeks, right?
2-3 weeks, yeah.
But, you know,
Sure.
all of the field, all of the ground game around how they were going to spend that money was premeditated, and they knew that they needed to spend or to like announce that $1 million 2 weeks before the election so that it wouldn't stay in the news cycle that long. Something that like I think about is like protecting the veneer of fairness in these elections. Like we know corporations have always kind of owned our government. But like Amazon just like dropped a bomb, I think, even on that.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
they knew the bad press that would come.
Yes.
And let's say they dropped that money 2 months ago. They were afraid of 2 months straight of built momentum around how fucked up.
But I also feel like it didn't get the amount of outrage that I was expecting. Like when I saw that, I literally like had a moment where I was like, holy fucking shit. Like these motherfuckers are trying to buy our city. But I mean, after exactly to your point, like after a few days, it was almost quiet
Warren
again.
tweeted about it. Sanders tweeted about it. Pretty national figures. But in terms of like, I just don't know how much local people like.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Also, what I'm curious too is that this is also, I want to say, a year after the HQ2 outrage, right? So I wonder if they're, in general, just escalating how much money they're spending in municipal battles. Because, I mean, New Yorkers won that fight.
Fuck yeah.
At the end of the day, right? I don't know if we have that culture in Seattle. I think here people are very, like, too trusting.
And this is the testing ground, right? Like Seattle will always be the testing ground for these types of fights because the contrast has always been so stark. Like in our last couple episodes, we've talked about how most of these races are pretty traditional, where it's like an extremely business oriented, like fairly center candidate versus leftist, like very starkly leftist of their opponent.
It's a polarizing race.
Right. And so if Amazon can pull this shit off, and if their money does truly win these elections, Seattle is the fucking beginning. Like this is going to influence, I think, presidential elections and municipal governments all across the country.
Yeah. I mean, that's where their battles for monopoly start, is in the city level. I mean, Disney has done it to their town. Like every big company has done it to their town. They've taken over. I guess what I meant to say by that was more like the median income for the city is now $93,000 per household, and
for
that's
a
what
white family.
Yeah. So what I mean is like people's. I would expect a bigger outrage if this happened like 5 to 6 years ago, and now people are like, well, last year the limit for like Durkin had almost $1 million, right? So maybe. Everyone's like, well,
is this the new norm then for
exactly?
our
That's what I
local
mean.
politics?
It's like, well, we can't shake them off, and
which maybe is why it was almost a bigger thing nationally than it was locally.
Exactly, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Maybe for our listeners, like it might be helpful for us to contextualize what does that money turn into, right? Like what does it actually mean for the campaigns? Some examples would be hit pieces. So earlier in the election, we saw a lot of like mailers and literature going out that just had like blatantly racist messaging on them. It goes towards commercials. It goes towards radio. It goes towards like paid canvassers. Like that money is what funds, these campaigns being able to either get away with having no ground game whatsoever, or just being able to have like the upper hand in terms of narrative within whatever race.
And when you say ground game, like traditional thought around successful campaigns are you need to hit the ground.
You knock every door.
Knock every door in your district or wherever you're running. You are talking to voters face to face. You know, you're literally you're boots to the ground. You have volunteers. You're mobilizing. You're sign waving. All of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what you're saying is that because they have so much money in terms of paid advertisement. I mean, I saw city council's local commercials being played at the CNN debate.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And in most of cases, money is going to media buys, like out of state,
which are so
out
expensive.
of state media company. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yep.
And we know that works, right? And in a lot of ways, it works because I think ground game, in my opinion, is probably still most important. But these media things, I mean, Donald Trump is the first presidential candidate to hire a digital media strategist to run his campaign. You know, like we all saw The Great Hack on Netflix. You know, we know the Cambridge Analytica scary data point thing. Like media buys work, and that's, you know, thousands, millions of dollars towards.
Especially when you're trying to get people to turn out for this election. And that's really what they, especially like in the districts that they're most worried about, D3 and D4, like they're needing to mobilize voters who are persuadable voters or voters who don't typically vote to get an incumbent like Shama out of her seat. And so that takes a lot of marketing and a lot of ad buys. But I think like the thing that like gets me about this too is that like campaign finance is fucked all around. Like it's fucked year round, you know, like PACs are like people can like jump into a PAC and business can jump into a PAC right before an election and like flood you with campaign messages and flood you with empty campaign promises and then disappear.
Yes.
And that's really like the issue with the electoral process in general. It doesn't really connect with people year round. There's not issue education year round.
Anyone at the end of the day. I hate using that word, but that's what it is.
It's
right?
true.
If they spread in misinformation, nothing happens.
Yeah.
I mean, they're accountable just to the people who donate a shit ton of money to them. But yeah.
Sure, but it looks like these people have deep pockets, right?
And it's not clear that they expect, they can't. I'm trying to figure out what Amazon expects for their $1 million. Like, they're not going to get.
No head tax.
Yeah, no, totally. But, like, just in terms of, like, is it just mostly for Shama? Like, there's some races that, like, they just can't win. So, like, but they're still spending a lot of money, but that's not, like, it's not going to work out.
I feel like it's also to quell anyone like Shama from ever running again.
Totally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we also, you know, let's tie it into the way the district is changing, like the people who are moving in.
In District 3.
District 3 specifically, which
Central
is like
District.
CD, you know, which has like very racist histories of like redlining, where like that's the only place that people of color, specifically black folks, could buy homes. And now, like, you know, the city's black population has dwindled.
They're training a narrative in the city, and they're like training Seattleites to think a certain way more than like necessarily even the short-term outcome, right, of getting a candidate involved. It's like, oh, you know, like we're like, to Aretha's point, making sure Seattleites think that like a progressive government is a pragmatic government, a government that can like, that isn't divisive, and that a government in Seattle that is for a head tax and challenges business is in some way a government that can't get anything done and is irresponsible. Exactly.
I was gonna say, we've seen some of that rhetoric in the racist tones that we've seen them paint Shama Sawan and Sean Scott in, right? Like specifically using angry photos of Shama or angry looking photos.
Just like to point that out, like they are the darkest folks in the race.
Yeah.
Right? Like
colorism. Right?
Yep.
Sean Scott, I've seen many posts that says, "Oh, he looks angry all the time. He doesn't smile."
Those are all racist ass tropes.
He like he sounds like he's trying to be smart. Like what? Like very like inherently racist comments. You know, but that type of propaganda being. I mean, Sean.
It's like that's how all their NPR friends sound like probably, and they don't say shit.
Sean is just a fucking brilliant guy.
Yeah.
He's just,
He's a smart dude.
Smart ass dude.
But we've seen Shama's face being used in front of campaign ads against people who she's not even running against.
What are some examples?
Well, like I saw, was it a Jim Pugel commercial?
People for Seattle are running. I think they're running them in multiple districts. With Shama as the very first thing you see, and then it goes on to talk about.
They're using her as a symbol of
divisive city council and like.
Yeah, with a lot of like fresh start, clean up Seattle language too, and then you put the brown lady up in front. It's not, yikes.
But like was discussed last week, that is Shama's role on the council. She pushes the entire council further to the left in a way that forces us to figure it out. You know, like it challenges business. It has the consequences unintended that it may have, but the city has to close the gap. Business has to close the gap. People fucking figure it out.
Yeah.
And we need that. We need that pressure on the council to the left.
So Case has been using their money on media strategies. Anything else?
I almost said something wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, they've been paying for canvassers. They've paid for feet on the ground.
Shitty canvassers.
Yeah.
That's because you can't buy loyalty.
I heard they were paying at one point last week $4 to $5 per door.
That makes sense.
Oh yeah, I remember that math.
Bonkers.
Dude, last week there was a direct mail and a canvas piece that showed up at houses the same day. They doubled down.
Yeah.
So who has known a candidate, a grassroots candidate that's run for office, who's part of this podcast?
Yes,
Oh yeah,
indeed.
yeah, sure.
Word.
Okay.
Spec is raising his hand.
Yeah.
Day's
Day is
raising his hand. Myra's raising his
Myra.
hand. Damn,
Lisa.
everybody rose their damn hand.
So is
Yeah.
Christina.
Okay, so I
Rose
don't know
asleep.
what it was like for you guys when your friend or your person was running for office for the first time, but like a lot of the people that I have known haven't known what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing because they don't come from that world. They're activists, maybe they are just like really wholesome people who care, who wanted to just leave the PTA and make a difference. I don't know. Like, they don't know what it takes to do a campaign, right? Yeah. And so they have to get all of this education around what a campaign looks like. They have to work with people from their community who jump on board and are like, all right, I'm going to do your comms. I'm going to run your finance. We're going to figure out your field. And all of these people don't know what the fuck they're doing. But you know who does?
Neither do people in office.
The fucking PACs. The PACs do because they exist specifically for this purpose. You have people who are on staff on these PACs, boards of these PACs. They exist long term. They have relationships long term. They know how to pull the data, how to scrub the list, how to set their targets, how to test and build their messaging platforms. And they know and professionally run attack ads and ads that can successfully train narratives to what they want. They've been doing it for a long time. A grassroots candidate who is coming from an historically under-resourced community does not have a fucking chance. So what does that mean for representation in our democracy? And that is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Right?
When you're talking about PACs, you're also talking. It's basically, when it comes down to it, it's people who have been doing this for a long time, who have access to resources. That includes money. That includes people already in power.
Yes.
That includes people who are been double majored in poli-sci, and so did their dad, and so did their great-great-granddad.
Exactly.
Right? They come...
The Tim Burgesses of the world.
Right. Which matters. In layman's terms, it gives people a competitive advantage.
Absolutely, to know when to spend the majority of their money, to even work backwards from like creating a direct mail piece, like this is how long it takes for a mail house to print the piece. This is how long it'll take to drop in the mail. Like, these are the compliance laws that we need to follow, and we have to put the bug on it. Like, all of that,
What's
people
the bug?
Are learning like as they go.
Yeah.
But the PACs contain that knowledge.
Yeah. Because they create the formula and they just apply it to their cookie cutter candidate. Yeah. And you know what? Like, we also, when 2017 was my first time getting into elections, and I didn't even know that political consultants were a thing.
Yeah.
Right? those people make so much fucking money. And like they are the like unspoken puppeteers of local politics, right? Like consulting firms run year round. And they do all the things that you just mentioned, right? So in addition to PACs, these consulting firms also sway the narratives. They like groom candidates. They reach out to candidates. They like pick the people who will run. And that shit is just as wild. It's a fucking industry.
Yeah.
Well, one of the most valuable things consulting firms have to offer to these candidates is a large donor list, a large email list, built database, and we joke around, you know, the great hack and like knowing people's, like these consultants, these firms already have that built network for the candidate that they want to work for, contract with, but also try to push into office. Yeah. Right? And these lists are like very, 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 very long. Mm-hmm. So these PACs are controlling the money. Mm-hmm. So in this case, there's a PAC called CASE. Right? CASE is a name of a PAC.
The Civic Alliance for a Sound Economy.
And that is where all the Amazon money is going towards. Mm-hmm. Amazon's because Amazon can't directly give money to candidates. Right. They have to go through the PAC system.
Mm-hmm. And People for Seattle. The Amazon money went to CASE and People for Seattle.
So those are the two PACs.
Mm-hmm. Those are the two big PACs that were pro-business chamber PACs. And the reason why they decided to give to those PACs as opposed to the candidates directly, even though I'm sure they did a combination, is because there are limits, like we discussed in our Democracy Voucher conversation, that limit the amount of money you can give directly to a candidate. So PACs can spend exponentially more just in general than a candidate can. Mm-hmm. But the PAC, the Political Action Committee, has to run an independent campaign from the candidate. The
actual campaign.
It can't be coordinated. Like they can't know what their strategies are, what their lists are, what their messages are. They work separately. Yeah. And it's called an independent expenditure when they do that. But they basically run the same type of campaign that a candidate would run for themselves.
But it can't be officially affiliated with the candidate.
Right. Like they are not allowed to communicate. They're not allowed to share any information. I'm really happy that we're talking about IEs because it is such a like niche thing that most folks don't even know are existing. And so, you know, campaigns can lean on IEs to supplement where they can't spend the money.
IEs are independent expenditures.
Yes, IEs are independent expenditures.
Not Internet Explorer.
And not International Examiner. We love the IE, by the way. Shouts.
So when you see a commercial...
But not the other IE. Or the other IE.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see a commercial and at the end it says, this was not paid for by such and such candidate. Or this campaign ad was paid for by People for Jenny Durkin. Like, it's like a very clear statement saying this is separate from the campaign because that would be illegal. But we are basically running a parallel campaign to the person we want to be in office.
Yes. Yeah.
I think also just for like the record, for putting it out there, like there are conservative PACs and there are progressive PACs and there are business PACs and everything in between. Big Pharma has a PAC. Labor has a PAC. Everybody has a PAC.
Nick Hanauer has a PAC.
I have a backpack.
Native women have a PAC.
Yes. And honestly, like that doesn't mean that finance reform shouldn't be taken into consideration, because it should, just because we all now use it as a tool. It's like we've adapted to figure out how to play this game since 2010 and Citizens United passed, which lifted the amount of money that anyone could contribute to a PAC, any person or corporation, which was a huge deal. And also I think it changed what political ads could say.
Oh, I don't know.
Where are we at on the limits with that then?
It's unlimited, I think.
Yeah, because money is speech, so you can't limit it.
It's unlimited. Yeah.
So is that what Lorena Gonzalez is trying to reform?
Lorena is trying to reform it to put a limit on it to 5,000 and also to limit it so that corporations that have majority international investors can't give at all to PACs, which would be Amazon, which would mean that you have companies from outside of this country interfering in our local elections.
There's also a difference between like Amazon's political wing donating and Amazon workers donating, because that kept getting conflated in the news cycle, where they'd be like, well, Elizabeth Warren also got Amazon money. Elizabeth Warren got worker money, which is very different than Jeff Bezos's chump change. So just wanted to also throw that in.
Let's not forget the average Amazon worker makes under $40,000
exactly
along those lines, right, of like individuals making individual contributions to PACs, and like making sure that this conversation doesn't just solely revolve around like case and like the business PAC, but like to look at like the bigger structure around what funds our civic engagement and our democracy as a whole. You have organizations like, I'll use a great one, for instance, like Planned Parenthood, which we all support and love, right? Like Planned Parenthood has a C3 that's a service provider. And as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, it is not allowed to be partisan, but it has a 501c4, which does its political advocacy to ensure that it can provide the health care for women that it wants, like abortion. And that is a partisan body. 501c4s can be partisan, meaning they can endorse specific candidates who also are pro-choice. And then they also have a PAC, a political action committee, which can accept donations and money to fund those candidates that they endorse in those races. So that is the structure in the nonprofit industrial complex that supports our civic engagement year round. And there are like, you know, like the PACs will come out, the business PACs will come out. They'll come out in the like June to November campaign period. And then they'll go silent, right? But like the organizations will be in community or in conversation with voters year round, doing really important voter work and voter education work if they do that.
Right.
But something to like consider when you look at like PAC spending too is if you're only engaging with people during that June to November time period, you're engaging with voters who turn out, who are likely voters. And likely voters are white and they're wealthy. And you're not talking to people who are historically underrepresented, who are people living on low incomes and people of color. And you're not talking to them in language, translated in the languages that they need to be talked to in. Right. So structurally, like this campaign finance system that we exist within, that our democracy exists and functions on, is totally fucked. And it's not just PACs.
And on the local level, when you say when they're only focus, when you all have to focus on is June through November, and on an odd year, which is when these local elections are happening everywhere. And I mean, someone asked me, like, imagine the momentum Sean Scott or Shama Sowan would have if it was happening during a presidential year.
Exactly.
Right? Where Bernie's getting this momentum, the squad just endorsed him. Socialism.
Then they talked about this. Like, imagine if they talked about Amazon putting in money to these when we're also voting against Trump, right?
100%.
Like, everyone would be paying attention. Everyone would be like, oh, it's related shit.
Elizabeth Warren dropped wealth tax, all of that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you lose 2 years of momentum, or a year of momentum.
So now the presidential race will just have whatever the result of Seattle is as a talking point next year.
Yeah. And by then something else would have happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, in that, like, too, I feel like I just want to go back and say, like, it's not just nonprofits that do the community building year round. Like, obviously it's like activists and like activism and movement building.
But we're talking about PACs though, especially when we're talking about like the access to this type of knowledge and knowing what to do. I mean, those nonprofits who are well established, like Planned Parenthood, they also have political advisors hired on their staff.
They're heavyweights. They're heavyweights for fucking sure.
Very seasoned lobbyists who know the political game. I mean, they're hiring a lot of times like former elected officials themselves. I do want to acknowledge that there was I misspoke last episode. The elections are November 5th.
So did I.
Not November 6th.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
We're a fucking voter suppressor now.
I know. Fuck, especially our
Accidental.
base. Let's be real. We are the last minute voters.
Yep.
So
Oh
you
my
let
God.
them know it's a day after. You know what? You gotta vote by November 2nd.
You know,
Like we have an absolute not only duty but like it's our fight, y'all. Like this is our fight to decide like Seattle is not for fucking sale. Shut the fuck up. Get the fuck out. Because we can still vote, right? Like ballots just came out. Make sure you get them. If you don't know how to vote, get in touch with people who do know how to vote. There's a lot of people trying to do voter engagement, because everything that we've talked about during this podcast can change. Like we can still win the fight.
Yeah, that's the thing. These candidates can win. They're not like
True.
wild card socialists. We're past the primaries.
Yeah.
I mean, Shauna's an incumbent
Yeah.
Right.
twice.
yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and she won by usually a landslide, right? So
People just need to like talk about it more, because like just like with what the five of us are gonna have reach of this conversation would cost a pack $20,000.
ooh.
You know what I mean?
Activist class pack.
Word. There you go. No, but like just talking to your friends is very valuable when compared to like pack dollars, right? Like direct mailers.
This is what they're
Campaign.
paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
And we're doing it for free.
Yeah, imagine.
Speaking of which.
those milk toast
We're
people.
suckers.
Please help. We have shitty mics.